Have you ever wondered if you will live forever or not? Today we're diving deep into some of the most profound questions about quantum immortality. What is the theory of biocentrism? Does your consciousness create the fabric of the cosmos? Are dreams an extension of physical reality? Do time and space really only exist in your mind? Is there only a series of eternal nows? Is death merely transport into another universe? Are you immortal according to quantum physics? Is a biocentric theory of everything possible? What is life? Is self real? Where is humanity's place in the cosmos? Let's delve into the answers to these questions with a comprehensive scientific perspective. Imagine a universe where you are the master of your destiny, where a galaxy from the Alpha to the Omega quadrant await your exploration. Today, I'm thrilled to introduce you to an adventure that's a staple in my gaming universe. Star Trek Fleet Command. Star Trek Fleet Command is a free multiplayer cross-play game available on both desktop and mobile with a Scopely account. With stellar graphics and an immersive experience, each mission feels like you're stepping into a new episode of your favorite Star Trek series. The universe of Star Trek Fleet Command is constantly evolving with monthly updates. In January, Star Trek has added new missions, new officers, Trip Tucker and T-Pole, and a new feature called Wave Defense. Join this extraordinary voyage with millions of players worldwide. Command your fleet, build powerful ships, forge alliances, engage in gripping space battles, and navigate through an epic storyline that intertwines with the iconic Star Trek narrative. Use the special promo code WARPSPEED. This code unlocks an exclusive new player content pack, gifting you 10 epic shards of the legendary Captain Kirk. Simply follow the link in the description or scan the QR code on your screen. Thank you Star Trek Fleet Command for sponsoring today's video and for this incredible journey across the stars. The realm of human consciousness and its relationship with reality has always been a subject of deep intrigue and mystery. This complexity is exemplified when we consider dreams, those vivid, immersive experiences that can be so lifelike that they blur the lines between the dream world and reality. Dreams highlight the brain's remarkable ability to create experiences, even in the absence of external sensory inputs, such as during sleep. This phenomenon opens up a fundamental question about the nature of consciousness. Does it merely shape our perception of reality, or does it play a role in creating physical reality itself? The advent of the scientific method marked a significant evolution in our understanding of the natural world, challenging and often overturning many traditional ideas. This transformation was particularly evident with the development of quantum mechanics, a field that introduced concepts defying conventional logic. One of the most striking examples of this is the wave-particle duality, as demonstrated by the double-slit experiment. This experiment revealed that particles exhibit both wave-like and particle-like properties, with their behavior changing when subjected to observation. The act of observing or measuring a quantum particle appears to cause the collapse of its wave function, forcing the particle into a specific state. This perplexing behavior remains one of the central mysteries in physics, leading to various theories and interpretations regarding the influence of observation in the quantum realm. Building upon these quantum mysteries, biocentrism, a theory proposed by Robert Lanza, a distinguished figure in stem cell research, presents a radical viewpoint. Lanza suggests that consciousness is not just a passive observer of reality, but an active creator of it. According to his theory, the universe and everything within it are constructs of our consciousness. This theory is underpinned by 7 principles that explore the interplay between consciousness, perception, and the physical universe. These principles challenge the conventional understanding of space and time as external entities, proposing instead that they are mental constructs. Lanza argues that without consciousness, the universe would linger in an undetermined state of probability. The first principle of biocentrism posits that our perception of reality is influenced by our consciousness, casting doubt on the existence of an external reality independent of our perception. Since space and time are perceived differently depending on the observer's state, they are argued to be constructs of the human mind rather than absolute realities. The second principle ties external and internal perceptions together, suggesting that our consciousness not only interprets sensory information, but also plays a role in creating what is sensed. The third principle extends this idea to the behavior of subatomic particles, which seem inextricably linked to the presence of an observer. This principle posits that without observation, particles exist in a state of probability, rather than as defined entities. The fourth principle takes this concept further, asserting that without consciousness, matter dwells in an undetermined state of probability. This idea suggests that consciousness is essential for the manifestation of the physical universe. The fifth principle looks at the universe's fine-tuning for life, arguing that this makes sense if life and consciousness are what created the universe in the first place. The sixth and seventh principles challenge the conventional understanding of time and space. The sixth asserts that time is a mental construct, a tool we use to understand changes in the universe, rather than a real, external entity. The seventh principle views space similarly, proposing that it is not an independent reality, but a creation of our consciousness. Despite its intriguing propositions, biocentrism faces significant criticism and debate. One major critique is its unfalsifiability, as it is challenging to design experiments to conclusively prove or disprove the theory. Critics also question the application of quantum mechanical principles, which govern the microscopic world, to the macroscopic reality we experience daily. This extension of quantum principles to macro reality, they argue, runs counter to our observable experience and established scientific understanding. Another point of contention is the theory's claim that the universe is fine-tuned for life. Critics argue that this interpretation selectively ignores the vastness of the universe, most of which is inhospitable to life as we know it. This claim seems to place humanity back at the cosmic center, a position that many scientific discoveries have progressively moved away from. Biocentrism presents a blend of science and philosophy, offering a unique perspective on consciousness and reality. While it opens up new avenues for thinking about the nature of existence and the universe, it remains a topic of contention within the scientific community. Its speculative nature and philosophical underpinnings make it a fascinating yet not wholly embraced concept in the ongoing quest to understand consciousness and reality. The debate surrounding biocentrism challenges our perspectives and invites us to ponder the mysteries of existence, consciousness, and the universe in new and profound ways. You allocate approximately 1/3 of your existence to the realm of sleep, a domain where dreams unfold. It's worth pondering whether these dreams might be more than mere figments of our imagination. Perhaps our habitual dismissal of dreams as simple, ephemeral fantasies could be a sign of a deeper misunderstanding about the intricate nature of consciousness and the very fabric of physical reality. Consider the dialogue in Lewis Carroll's Alice in Wonderland, where Alice emphatically claims her reality by saying, "I am real. Without reality, I couldn't possibly shed tears." In a tone brimming with skepticism, Tweedledum challenges her, retorting, "Do you honestly believe those are actual tears?" This exchange underscores how we often take for granted the remarkable ability of our minds to synthesize and interpret a vast array of information. Every experience, every sensation we perceive is nothing but a complex blend of data being processed in the recesses of our brains. Enter biocentrism, an emerging theory of everything, which proposes a radical idea. Space and time are not the rigid, absolute entities we perceive them to be. Rather, they are sophisticated tools employed by our mind to organize and make sense of our sensory experiences. These concepts are fundamental to our understanding of consciousness. They explain why, in particle physics experiments, the observed properties of space, time, and matter itself vary relative to the observer. This principle holds true in both our waking lives and in the realm of dreams, where our minds function to collapse probability waves, conjuring up a tangible physical reality equipped with a functioning body, capable of thought and sensation in a three-dimensional world. We often dismiss dreams simply because they dissipate upon our awakening. However, the ephemeral nature of these experiences does not inherently undermine their basis in physical reality. In a similar vein, we do not deem our day-to-day life as less real simply because we drift into sleep or ultimately face death. It's a fact that our recall of dream experiences isn't as sharp or enduring as our waking memories, but this doesn't necessarily diminish their reality. For example, consider individuals suffering from Alzheimer's disease, whose grasp on past events is tenuous at best. This does not make their lived experiences any less real. Similarly, those under the influence of psychedelic drugs experience a distortion in their perception of spatio-temporal events and may struggle with memory recall once the effects subside. Yet, This does not negate the reality of their experiences, as can be attested by those they interact with during such states. We often categorize dreams as unreal because they correlate with specific patterns of brain activity during sleep. But then, should we also consider our waking life as unreal, since it too is associated with ongoing neural activity? Indeed, the biophysical underpinnings of consciousness, whether experienced in a dream state or during waking hours, can be traced back to the intricate workings of neurons, or even to the cosmic events of the Big Bang. But biocentrism posits a different perspective. Reality is a process deeply intertwined with our consciousness. In stark contrast to the ephemeral nature of dreams, we often assume that the external world exists independently, with a concrete reality that is somehow separate from our perception. We see these as fundamentally different realms. Yet, a plethora of experiments suggest the opposite. The reality of our day-to-day world is no more objective or independent of the observer than the reality experienced in dreams. One of the most striking illustrations of this concept is the famous double-slit experiment. When observed, particles behave as discrete entities, like bullets, passing through one slit or the other. However, in the absence of observation, they exhibit wave-like characteristics, passing through both slits simultaneously. This phenomenon demonstrates that unobserved particles exist only as waves of probability, not as fixed physical entities. Critics often argue that such quantum behaviors are confined to the microscopic world. Yet, the notion of a dualistic world, where small objects follow one set of physical laws and the macro world adheres to another, lacks a solid foundation in logical reasoning. This bifurcated view of reality is increasingly being challenged by scientific experiments worldwide. For instance, a groundbreaking study published in Nature revealed that quantum behavior extends into the macro realm. In this study, pairs of vibrating ions demonstrated entanglement, maintaining their interconnected physical properties even when separated by considerable distances. This phenomenon, referred to as spooky action at a distance by Einstein, was previously thought to be unobservable in nature. The researchers posited that such phenomena might indeed occur in the natural world, but are simply overlooked due to our current technological limitations in isolating systems from their surrounding environment. Further supporting this view are experiments involving large molecules such as buckyballs and KHC-03 crystals, which exhibited entanglement and other quantum behaviors at scales perceptible to the human eye, effectively blurring the line between the quantum and macro worlds. In summary, whether awake or immersed in the dream world, the underlying biophysical processes at play are fundamentally the same. While these two states of being offer qualitatively different experiences of reality, if there is thought and feeling involved, it bears the hallmark of reality. This brings us to the profound assertion of René Descartes, cogito, ergo sum, I think therefore I am, encapsulating the idea that the very act of thinking and experiencing is in itself a confirmation of one's existence and interaction with reality. The exploration of space and the universe at large is increasingly revealing that understanding the cosmos involves more than just studying distant galaxies or supernovas. It's a journey that requires deep introspection, delving into not just the external celestial bodies, but also examining our own existence and its intrinsic role within this vast universe. This profound realization became clear to Dr. Robert Lanza during a contemplative walk in the woods, where an encounter with a spider on its web led him to draw profound parallels to the human condition. Like the spider in its own web, humans are central figures in a much larger web of space and time, interconnected by the intricate laws of physics and the universe, which are processed and understood through the lens of human cognition. This brings us to an existential inquiry. Can the web truly exist without the spider? Similarly, do space and time hold up as physical constructs in the absence of sentient observers? The quest to unravel the true essence of reality has long been a subject of intense scrutiny among scientists and philosophers alike. In the 18th century, philosopher George Berkeley presented a thought-provoking theory that our perceptions are the very foundation upon which we build our understanding of the cosmos. He posited that phenomena such as color, sound, and temperature are not inherent qualities of the external world, but rather constructs of our sensory experiences. Throughout history, scientists have generally leaned towards constructing physical models based on the assumption of an external universe. These models have been predicated on the idea of a singular, enduring reality that exists independently of our perceptions. However, the advent of quantum physics has challenged these assumptions, demonstrating that the presence of an observer can significantly alter experimental outcomes. This revelation has called into question the traditional notion of an objective, observer-independent reality. Quantum mechanics, regarded as the most accurate model for describing atomic and subatomic phenomena, provides compelling evidence that conscious perception is fundamentally intertwined with the workings of the universe. Central to quantum theory is the Heisenberg uncertainty principle, which asserts that unobserved particles exist in a state of probability, lacking definite properties until they are observed. This principle has profound implications, suggesting that the act of observation plays a crucial role in determining the state of a particle. One of the most striking demonstrations of this principle is seen in the phenomenon of quantum entanglement. When particles become entangled, their properties become interdependent, and a measurement of one particle instantly influences the state of its entangled counterpart, regardless of the distance separating them. This phenomenon, first demonstrated in groundbreaking experiments by physicist Nicholas Gisin and later replicated and refined by others, indicates an extraordinary level of interconnectedness within the quantum realm, one that defies conventional understanding of space and time. The idiosyncrasies of quantum mechanics, coupled with the universe's apparent fine-tuning for life, pose significant challenges to the conventional model of reality. The universe appears to be perfectly calibrated for life, a phenomenon often referred to as the Goldilocks principle. Conditions are not too extreme, but just right for life to exist. This has led to several theories attempting to explain this fine-tuning. The anthropic principle, proposed by astrophysicist Brandon Carter, posits that the universe must necessarily have conditions suitable for life, for if it didn't, we wouldn't be here to observe it. However, biocentrism offers a more radical explanation. It suggests that it is life and consciousness that have given rise to the universe, rather than the universe giving rise to life. In the biocentric view, conventional understandings of space and time are challenged, with these concepts seen as mere perceptual constructs rather than objective realities. Philosophers and physicists have long debated the nature of time, with many concluding that the past and future are nothing more than mental constructs, with the present moment being the only tangible reality. Quantum mechanics supports this notion, suggesting that our perception of reality is intimately connected to our interactions with it. Biocentrism takes this a step further, positing that our perceptions actively reconstruct the universe within our minds, with time being a construct that emerges from our interpretation of change. Space, too, is not seen as an objective reality, but as a mental framework used to organize and interpret sensory experiences. This perspective challenges the traditional Newtonian view of space as an infinite container, highlighting instead its dynamic nature as influenced by factors like gravity and velocity, as described by Einstein's theory of relativity, and the interconnectedness of distant objects, as demonstrated by quantum entanglement. The biocentric view has profound implications for the traditional approach to scientific inquiry. It suggests that traditional methodologies, which have long treated space and time as fundamental, independent entities, may be fundamentally flawed. A biocentric approach necessitates a reassessment of the foundational assumptions of scientific exploration, integrating the role of the observer and the living into our understanding of the universe. Recent advancements in quantum physics, including updated entanglement experiments by Nicholas Gisin and Anton Zeilinger's work with large molecules like buckyballs, point towards the applicability of quantum phenomena in the macroscopic world. Embracing biocentrism could lead to a paradigm shift in science, potentially revolutionizing our understanding of cognition, consciousness, and the development of artificial intelligence. This new perspective offers fresh approaches to addressing the enigmas of quantum physics and the origins of the universe, suggesting that space and time, as constructs of the biological mind, offer new ways of conceptualizing everything from quantum experiments to the cosmic forces and laws that shape our universe. In summary, biocentrism presents an intriguing and promising pathway towards a unified theory of physics, a goal that has eluded scientists since Einstein's time. By recognizing the integral role of biology and consciousness in shaping our perception of the universe, biocentrism transcends the limitations of traditional scientific paradigms and paves the way for a more comprehensive and profound understanding of the nature of reality. Traditional science has long viewed death as the definitive endpoint of life, an irreversible halt to all biological functions. This view, rooted in a pragmatic and stoic philosophy, often regards the concept of an afterlife as a mere figment of human imagination, a comforting but baseless fantasy. While this perspective is underpinned by empirical evidence and scientific reasoning, it paints a rather somber and finite picture of the human experience, offering a conclusion that is as absolute as it is bleak. In stark and intriguing contrast, the theory of biocentrism emerges as a revolutionary challenger to this conventional understanding. Born from the intricate interplay of quantum physics and consciousness studies, biocentrism proposes a radical rethinking of life and consciousness as the fundamental pillars of the universe. This theory audaciously challenges the traditional perception of death as the ultimate termination of existence. To fully grasp the essence of biocentrism, one must embark on a journey through the complexities of Einstein's theory of relativity. This groundbreaking work reshaped our comprehension of time and space, suggesting that the distinctions between past, present, and future are not as definitive as traditionally believed. Einstein's insights blur the lines of temporal continuity, propelling us to question the very fabric of reality as we perceive it. Building upon this revolutionary groundwork, a myriad of physicists have ventured further, exploring the concept that each moment exists as a self-contained now, independent and complete within itself. This perspective challenges the traditional linear model of time, proposing that life is not a seamless flow, but rather a sequence of distinct, individual moments. Each of these moments exists autonomously, suggesting that our understanding of time as a flowing continuum could be a mere perceptual illusion. This paradigm shift is vividly illustrated by pioneering experiments in quantum physics, such as the delayed choice experiment. These experiments have astonishingly demonstrated that present actions can exert an influence on past events, particularly in the realm of quantum particles. This revelation upends the conventional understanding of causality, implying that the structure of reality is more pliable and interconnected than previously conceived. In a universe where time is not an immutable fundamental aspect of reality, the traditional concept of death demands a thorough reassessment. Biocentrism, drawing insights from the principles of quantum mechanics, posits that our perception and experience of reality are constructs of the mind. Within this framework, space and time are not fixed external realities, but are cognitive tools employed to interpret and navigate our experiences. From the biocentric viewpoint, the experience of now is deeply subjective and personal. The conventional notions of past and future are transformed from fixed realities into relative conceptual constructs, varying according to the observer's perspective. In such a conceptual universe, the traditional idea of after death becomes obsolete, as time does not follow a linear progression as we typically understand it. To elucidate this concept, one can draw upon the metaphor of a phonograph. Just as the needle of a phonograph traverses the grooves of a record, each groove containing its own potential melodies and rhythms, reality is perceived as a vast collection of potential nows. The state of existence before death is not perceived as a static point on a timeline, but as a dynamic state of potentiality, existing in a quantum superposition of countless possibilities. In this expansive and thought-provoking view, death is reimagined not as an absolute cessation of being, but as a transition into a different state of potential existence. The linear progression of time and the perceived continuity of experiences are reconceived as perceptual illusions. Reality is envisioned as a series of discrete, interchangeable moments, each moment a self-contained universe with its own unique properties. This profound perspective not only radically redefines our understanding of time, life, and death, but also invites us to reevaluate our place within the vast and intricate tapestry of the universe. Here, we are interwoven not only with the threads of physical existence, but also with the essence of consciousness itself, suggesting that our journey through life and beyond is far more intricate and interconnected than we have ever imagined. This perspective encourages a deeper exploration into the nature of our existence, urging us to consider the profound implications of a universe where consciousness and life are the fundamental forces that shape the reality we experience. The theory of biocentrism challenges the conventional understanding of death, proposing it as an illusion rooted in human self-identification with the physical body. It suggests that the fear of consciousness ceasing with the death of the body stems from a limited understanding of existence. In contrast, consciousness is posited to be boundless, not confined by the constraints of time and space, and capable of existing independently of the human form. This idea aligns seamlessly with the core tenets of quantum mechanics, which assert that particles can exist simultaneously in multiple locations, and that events can unfold in a myriad of ways, sometimes even infinitely. Robert Lanza, the proponent of this theory, introduces the concept of multiple coexisting universes, each harboring different potential realities. In one universe, a person may meet their end, but in another, they persist, with their consciousness having transferred to this alternate universe. This perspective implies that upon death, an individual's journey does not culminate in a traditional afterlife such as heaven or hell. Instead, they find themselves in a parallel universe that mirrors their previous existence, yet in this new universe, they continue to live. This cycle of death and rebirth in alternate universes could potentially be unending. Lanza's theory, which infuses hope but also stirs controversy, has found support not only among people desiring immortality, but also among prominent scientists, especially in the fields of physics and astrophysics. These scientists entertain the possibility of parallel universes and support the multiverse concept, a scientific theory that perceives no physical laws as forbidding the existence of parallel worlds. The genesis of this idea can be traced back to the visionary mind of H.G. Wells, who first proposed it in 1895. Subsequently, in 1957, Hugh Everett, through his graduate thesis at Princeton University, expanded on this idea. He suggested that the universe is subject to continual division into numerous similar instances, which then similarly bifurcate in the next instant. This theory proposes a reality where multiple versions of oneself could exist concurrently across various universes, engaged in different activities. Everett explained that our decisions and actions serve as the catalyst for the generation of these myriad worlds. With each choice we make, the universe splits into two or more versions, each representing a different outcome of that decision. In the 1980s, Andrei Linde from the Lebedev Institute of Physics, who later joined Stanford University, advanced this theory further. He described the universe as composed of numerous inflating spheres, each birthing more spheres and so on, in an infinite cascade. These universes, while separate and oblivious to each other's existence, are nevertheless integral parts of the same overarching physical universe. Supporting evidence for the existence of these multiple universes emerged from data collected by the Planck Space Telescope. This data facilitated the creation of an intricate map of the cosmic microwave background radiation. Notable anomalies in this map, such as distinctive holes and vast gaps, were interpreted by Laura Massini-Houghton and her team at North Carolina University as resulting from the interaction of our universe with other nearby universes. The neo-biocentrism theory, thus, postulates an abundance of universes where our soul could potentially migrate after death. The existence of the soul is a concept staunchly supported by Stuart Hameroff of the University of Arizona. He claims to have discovered evidence that consciousness does not perish with death. Hameroff proposes that the human brain operates as an advanced quantum computer. In this framework, the soul or consciousness is viewed as quantum information stored at the quantum level. This information, following the demise of the body, can blend with our universe and persist indefinitely. Lanza's unique stance is that post-death, the soul transitions to an entirely different universe. This theory is further endorsed by Sir Roger Penrose, a distinguished British physicist and mathematician from Oxford. Penrose, along with other researchers, is developing a quantum theory to elucidate the phenomenon of consciousness. They posit that they have identified specific carriers of consciousness within the brain, protein-based microtubules located in neurons. These microtubules, previously thought to play only a structural and transport role within cells, are now considered ideal for functioning as carriers of quantum properties within the brain. This is primarily due to their ability to maintain quantum states for extended periods, which positions them as potential elements of a quantum computer. Have you ever miraculously survived an incident where it seemed certain you would perish, perhaps due to a fortunate twist of fate? Or have you been so critically ill that your survival was a narrow escape? Subsequently, did your recollection of these events differ from those around you? This could be explained by the possibility that you actually perished in a different timeline, but your consciousness persisted in an alternate reality. This intriguing concept is known as quantum immortality, and it introduces several profound philosophical inquiries. Originating as a thought experiment in the late 1980s, quantum immortality was later expanded upon by physicist and cosmologist Max Tegmark. He theorized that we might die numerous times in our lifetime, with our consciousness transferring, transitioning, or leaping into a new, similar timeline each time. This implies that we can undergo death and yet continue existing in a subsequent timeline. In the 20th century, theoretical physicists Niels Bohr and Werner Heisenberg developed the Copenhagen interpretation. This theory posits that particles like photons can exist in multiple states at once. Our attempts to measure them influence their state, solidifying one observed state while eliminating all other potential states. To better grasp this, consider a cat entering a room. Until observed, the cat could be in various states, lying down, sitting, or standing. These are potential states. However, upon observation, the cat will manifest in one definite state, such as standing, and all other states cease to be possibilities. Countering the Copenhagen interpretation, American physicist Hugh Everett proposed the many worlds interpretation in 1957. According to this theory, when a photon is observed, the world splits. In one world, the photon travels straight. In another, it undulates. We randomly find ourselves in one of these worlds, without any underlying principle. Consider the act of deciding to visit a store. Initially, your world has two potential states, going or not going shopping. Once you leave for the store, your world bifurcates. Upon entering the store, the decision to buy or not buy something further multiplies these worlds. This suggests an infinite array of possible states in the universe. Quantum immortality is deeply linked to the many worlds interpretation of quantum mechanics. This interpretation suggests that each potential outcome of a quantum measurement manifests in a distinct parallel universe. Contrasting with the singular universe concept, the multiverse theory proposes a limitless number of parallel universes existing on different timelines. In these universes, every event, including death, impacts others. If quantum immortality holds true, when we die in one timeline, we merely transition to another, continuing our existence. The roots of quantum immortality trace back to Hugh Everett's work in the 1950s. He introduced the many worlds interpretation to address the measurement problem in quantum mechanics, which deals with how observing a quantum system alters its state. Everett suggested that every quantum measurement possibility creates its own universe, leading to a multitude of universes, each with a different outcome upon measurement. In 1997, esteemed MIT physicist Max Tegmark proposed a groundbreaking experiment to test the many worlds interpretations of quantum mechanics. He theorized that if quantum immortality were factual, it should be feasible to survive a lethal event. Moreover, he posited that traversing the multiverse could lead one to a universe where they survive such an event and persist in living. Despite its contentious nature over the years, this experiment remains a fascinating thought experiment. Schrödinger's cat is a renowned thought experiment closely linked to the concept of quantum immortality. In this experiment, a theoretical cat is placed inside a sealed container, along with a radioactive element, a Geiger counter, and a container of poison. The radioactive material has a 50% likelihood of undergoing decay within a specific time frame. Should the material undergo decay, the Geiger counter will activate the release of the poison, resulting in the cat's demise. Conversely, if there is no decay, the poison remains contained and the cat remains unharmed. However, until the box is opened, the cat exists in a dual state of being both alive and dead at the same time, known as superposition. In essence, the cat embodies two conditions concurrently, being alive and being dead. Max Tegmark's thought experiment modifies Schrödinger's cat experiment. In this variant, an individual is placed before a device that determines the spin of a quantum particle. This apparatus is designed to discharge a gun if the particle is detected with a spin-down orientation, but it remains inactive for a spin-up result. The individual then repetitively engages the machine and notes the outcome. Under the Copenhagen interpretation of quantum mechanics, this individual is in a state of superposition, implying they are concurrently alive and deceased until the device's result is checked. Conversely, According to the many worlds interpretation of quantum mechanics, the individual's consciousness would persist solely in the universe where the particle is consistently observed as spin-up. In any other universe, the individual would cease to exist. Continually operating the machine and observing its results, the individual would invariably end up in the universe where the particle's spin is always spin-up. From their viewpoint, they would seem to be endlessly surviving, despite perishing in numerous alternate universes. Advocates of quantum immortality argue that this theory is not in conflict with any established physical laws, although this view is not universally accepted in the scientific community. Their rationale hinges on two contentious assumptions. Firstly, they posit that Everett's many worlds interpretation is accurate, as opposed to the Copenhagen interpretation, which does not acknowledge the existence of parallel universes. Secondly, they suggest that in every possible situation where the subject of the experiment could die, there exists a smaller group of situations in which the subject survives. A potential critique of quantum immortality might be that the latter assumption doesn't necessarily derive from Everett's many worlds interpretation and could be inconsistent with known physical laws, which are thought to govern all conceivable realities. The many worlds interpretation of quantum mechanics doesn't imply that anything is possible. Rather, it suggests that at a specific moment, the universe could branch into various other universes, each corresponding to a different set of all feasible outcomes. A further issue with the concept of quantum immortality might be that it implies a conscious entity would be obliged to undergo highly improbable events in circumstances where they would otherwise appear to meet their end. Disregarding the numerous parallel universes where the individual perishes, the limited universes they subjectively experience would unfold in highly improbable ways. This could potentially lead to a conflict with the principle of causality, whose dynamics in quantum physics are not yet fully understood. Although the concept of quantum immortality primarily stems from a theoretical experiment, Max Tegmark, a key advocate of this experiment, has clarified that he does not consider quantum immortality to be a direct result of his research. Rather, he asserts that sentient beings experience a gradual decline in self-awareness preceding death under typical circumstances, a process unrelated to quantum mechanics. This reduction in awareness can span from moments to several years. Therefore, according to Max Tegmark, the idea of a person enduring through transitions from one universe to another for extended survival is not feasible. The concept of quantum immortality has sparked discussions in both academic and public domains. However, its feasibility as a genuine phenomenon remains a subject of debate. Although the many worlds interpretation is a recognized approach within quantum mechanics, it's not the exclusive interpretation, and alternative interpretations don't inherently imply the existence of quantum immortality. Moreover, even if quantum immortality were real, it wouldn't assure absolute immortality. This theory posits that our consciousness might persist in an alternate universe following our death in this one. However, it doesn't take into account the inevitability of physical deterioration or aging. It is also important to recognize that quantum immortality is still a theoretical concept, lacking empirical evidence from the scientific community. As such, the prospect of achieving immortality through quantum means appears implausible. Nevertheless, it remains a captivating and intellectually stimulating idea within theoretical physics, though not yet a scientifically verified truth. Ongoing research may provide further insights to either substantiate or discredit the theory. For now, quantum immortality should be considered an intriguing theoretical notion. Numerous contemporary scientific articles have contemplated the idea of a universe that is alive. If their assumptions are correct, it would fundamentally alter astrobiology's perspectives on the emergence and essence of life, as well as reshape its methods in the pursuit of knowledge. Our capacity to understand the natural world hinges on our ability to question it, which in turn is partially dependent on the technological means at our disposal during any particular era. It also depends on human cognition, which is infamously limited in comprehending comprehensive views and more adept at breaking down subjects into digestible segments. We often forget that our own shortcomings, not the natural world, create isolated compartments, definitions, and limits. Over time, these compartments turn into our entire view of the world, when they were initially just segments of a larger interconnected puzzle. These divisions influence and challenge our scientific inquiries, the creation of intellectual models, the audacity of our theories, and our perspectives. They impose artificial limits on where answers can be located, as well as their nature and extent. The quest for the beginnings and essence of life embodies this challenge. It represents the ultimate speculative exercise, one in which we are deeply involved, akin to water droplets pondering the sea, struggling to delineate our own confines, when perhaps none exist. It's possible that the concept of a droplet is variable, with the answer lying more in the sea's fluctuating nature at any particular moment than in a distinct separation of part from whole. Perhaps the droplet signifies the sea's endless capacity for metamorphosis. Is the lack of consensus on life's definition reflective of methodological and technological constraints, restricted intellectual models, or a combination of both? Science is undoubtedly becoming increasingly proficient at characterizing life's actions day by day, yet offers relatively fewer insights into what life is and its origins. Thus, the current study of life might be likened to plumbing, proficient in handling pipes, concerned with the interactions between water and pipes, but not addressing the origin and essence of water. Is this because the answers lie at scales and resolutions beyond our current technological reach? Or is it that life is the outcome of yet undiscovered exotic physical and chemical processes? Or is it neither? Maybe the problem doesn't lie here, but rather in how we pose the question, a result of our conditioned thinking. It could be that life is indeed what life does, with the answer being so apparent that we fail to recognize it, as our intellectual models don't allow us the perspective to see it. Astrobiology articulates this dilemma in its strategic vision through key inquiries. What is life? How will we know when we've discovered it? Is there a clear demarcation between prebiotic chemistry and life? The first two queries address the fundamental nature of life and our capability to recognize it elsewhere in the universe when we still can't definitively define it on Earth. The last question probes the distinction between the living and the non-living, offering a chance to debate whether the transition from prebiotic chemistry to life is gradual or a random leap. Two main ideas facilitate addressing these questions. Habitability evaluates environments that may foster the emergence and continuation of life. It establishes the physical and chemical limits for life, encompassing abiotic, prebiotic, and biotic processes. Coevolution describes the process from the inception of life. This concept imagines spatial and temporal interactions between life and its environment and their mutual influence. It's a systemic relationship occurring through cycles and feedback mechanisms, gauged by alterations and adaptations. These two ideas are pivotal to our understanding of life in the cosmos and our exploration, but they are not the only ones. With the Gaia hypothesis, coevolution is seen as a mutual relationship between life and its surroundings, evolving together as a single, self-regulating system that sustains conditions for life on Earth. Gaia represents a cybernetic feedback mechanism operated unconsciously by living organisms. Habitability, coevolution, and Gaia examine the origin and evolution of life from astronomical, planetary, and ecological perspectives. Recent advancements in various scientific fields such as biology, neuroscience, cosmology, and quantum physics are challenging and reshaping traditional viewpoints. Within this transformative landscape, biocentrism emerges as a significant theory, proposing a comprehensive theory of everything. It views life through a cosmic lens, suggesting that consciousness is not just a byproduct, but rather a fundamental force in shaping reality and unlocking the mysteries of the universe. In parallel, new theories about consciousness and its connection to neural and analogous systems are being formulated in physics, cognitive sciences, and information theory. Although these theories diverge from the principles of biocentrism, they offer new perspectives to examine the interplay between life, its environment, and the cosmos, and to delve into the intricate relationship between life and consciousness. These theories suggest that consciousness not only molds our understanding and perception of our surroundings and the universe, but also plays a role in processing, organizing, interacting with, and potentially altering information. In this context, including the perspective of biocentrism, the genesis and essence of life are being explored at the quantum level. While still awaiting empirical validation, such theories encourage a re-evaluation of our perception, urging us to reconsider astrobiology's inquiries from this new angle. If substantiated, a theory of everything links the genesis of life to the universe's inception. Given its roots in quantum interactions, this theory might imply a universal application, where the distinction between living and non-living entities is not a fundamental divergence in their nature, but rather a variance in the level of energy and the complexity of information being processed, stored, transformed, and exchanged at any given time. The demarcation between the living and non-living may merely represent the boundary of our current comprehension of these interactions. In this context, Gaia transforms from a subconscious cybernetic feedback mechanism driven by living organisms to a deliberate planetary-scale symbiosis. Coevolution, then, is not just a process that commences with the emergence of life. It instead marks the point where our recognition of life's influence on the universe begins. Historically, the concept of a sentient universe, often philosophically contemplated under the idea of panpsychism, has been a subject of deep thought and debate. However, these recent studies, grounded in scientific research and experimentation, are eroding the divisions between humanities, biology, information technology, cognitive sciences, and cosmology. More crucially, they are altering the framework for exploration. The quest to discover life beyond Earth transforms under this paradigm. If everything we are, reside on, interact with, and perceive is alive, then the search becomes less about finding life and more about exploring the myriad ways life manifests its diversity and complexity, not just within the universe, but as an expression of the universe itself, and understanding how to communicate and share information with it. Perhaps the most significant implication of these new studies is how they redefine our human role. We are no longer mere external observers, but participants in a cosmic symbiosis. This perspective represents a radical hypothesis for astrobiology, a paradigm shift that fundamentally alters our relationship with our planet, our biosphere, and the universe at large. Life is a phenomenon that is intuitively recognizable, yet eludes precise definition. When we observe an earthworm, its movements and seemingly purposeful actions stand in stark contrast to the inertness of a rock, illustrating our innate ability to discern living from non-living entities. This distinction is rooted in the fundamental drive for survival that characterizes all living organisms, a drive that is perhaps more elemental than even the vital biological imperative to reproduce. Living beings are marked by their consumption of resources and their ability to replicate themselves, a trait conspicuously absent in inanimate objects. This difference is evident even in life forms that display only the faintest signs of vitality, such as an animal in the depths of hibernation, clinging to life with the barest minimum of metabolic activity and no reproductive function. While metabolism and genetic replication are definitive hallmarks of life, they only scratch the surface of its deeper mystery. The profound enigma of life lies in understanding the transition from non-living to living matter, a transformation that occurred approximately 3.5 billion years ago on Earth. The primary challenge is to unravel the process by which life emerged from non-living substances, the mysterious alchemy that bestowed the essence of life upon inert matter through the lens of contemporary scientific methodology. This line of inquiry is not a veering into the realms of creationism or esoteric concepts of a life force. Rather, it is a deeply scientific question, albeit one that is immensely complex. The question can be encapsulated as follows: how did non-living matter autonomously evolve into living matter through the operation of natural physical and biochemical processes? Our linguistic constructs often reflect a predilection for the supernatural. For example, the term animals originates from the Latin anima, which translates to soul. Consequently, it's a natural linguistic leap to view living creatures as entities imbued with a soul, at least within the linguistic framework that gave rise to the word animal. In a broader sense, life can be conceptualized as matter that embodies intention or purpose. This idea of intentionality presents a significant challenge for the scientific approach, which traditionally explicates phenomena through a framework of cause and effect relationships among inanimate entities, making the full comprehension of life a complex endeavor. Consider the example of a fire. A fire spreads by consuming resources from its environment to sustain itself. It requires oxygen for combustion, functioning as a thermodynamically open system akin to living organisms. Given suitable conditions, a fire can even multiply. Yet, we do not classify fire as a living entity. We do not interpret the proliferation of a fire as a form of reproduction, nor do we view the combustion of oxygen as akin to metabolic processes. The rationale behind this distinction lies in the absence of historical continuity in fires. They lack any mechanism for genetic storage that would allow them to transmit inherited characteristics as they propagate. Furthermore, fires do not possess adaptive survival strategies or self-repair mechanisms. If a fire spreads down a slope towards a body of water, it will continue its path unaltered until it is quenched by the water, extinguishing itself. It does not actively seek additional fuel or employ any form of strategy to prolong its existence. Similarly, consider hurricanes. Like fires, hurricanes are persistent and complex systems that deviate significantly from equilibrium, just like living organisms. They require specific environmental conditions to form and maintain their structure. They are influenced by and interact with local humidity, pressure, and temperature conditions. Under favorable atmospheric circumstances, they can preserve their core structure, as exemplified by Jupiter's Great Red Spot, a massive anticyclonic storm that has persisted for centuries. Yet, despite these similarities, we do not equate the properties of hurricanes with the qualities of living beings. Our propensity to perceive life in various phenomena is strong, yet a critical distinction lies in the unpredictability inherent in the reproduction of living systems, a factor conspicuously absent in non-living systems. In physical systems, replicating initial conditions with high precision would result in a fire burning in an identical manner, a hurricane following a similar trajectory, and a star evolving in a consistent way, even though there may be minor variations. This suggests that non-living systems possess an information content that is relatively static, that is, a predictable trajectory from inception to conclusion, whereas living systems exhibit an information content that is dynamic, that is, an unpredictable trajectory from inception to conclusion. Unlike fires and hurricanes, living organisms are the result of an evolutionary process stemming from ancestors. Another critical distinction is the passivity of non-living dissipative structures, in contrast to the active behaviors exhibited by living systems. Life demonstrates strategies for nutrient acquisition, even at the microscopic level, as evidenced in phenomena like chemotaxis, where bacteria navigate toward optimal paths through a yet-to-be fully understood interplay of bottom-up and top-down causation. We employ terms such as volition, impulse, autonomy, and control to describe the attributes of living systems, words that would be incongruent when applied to fires, hurricanes, or celestial bodies. Despite these clear differences, the conundrum of how life arises from non-living matter remains as mysterious and elusive as ever. The enduring question that confronts us is, how does a collection of non-living substances, upon reaching a certain threshold of biochemical complexity, undergo a transformation into a living organism? For ages, an intense and ongoing conversation has engaged scientists and philosophers, often framed as a conflict. This discourse focuses on the fundamental nature of consciousness and self-identity. With recent advancements in artificial intelligence, this topic has become increasingly relevant. The crucial question is whether our perception of a consistent, inherent self actually exists, or if it's simply a construct of the brain. Alongside this, a related query with more evident practical relevance emerges. Are our thoughts and behaviors truly under our control, or are they predestined outcomes in a universe where everything is already determined? The common view is that we have a self, which is the basis of our free will. However, this idea of the self is full of paradoxes. Since the mind is seen as a non-physical entity, its very definition places the self beyond physical causation and outside the realm of scientific inquiry. Nevertheless, in philosophical debates that feature an initial proposition and a contrasting counter-proposition, an integration of these opposing views often leads to a coherent and logical synthesis. The first structured defense of the self's existence was put forward by philosopher René Descartes in the 17th century. His renowned statement, cogito, ergo sum, translating as, I think, therefore I am, grounded the existence of the self in the act of thinking. For Descartes, the act of thinking itself was irrefutable evidence of the self's existence. Through this assertion, this forefather of modern Western philosophy introduced a theory known as substance dualism. This concept proposes two primary kinds of substances in existence, the mental and the physical, corresponding to the mind and the body, including the rest of the physical world. In this theory, the mind influences the body through conscious thought, infusing it with agency, intention, and free choice. Our daily experiences seem to affirm Descartes' theory. Humans, unlike inanimate objects, are driven by their goals and dreams. While the behavior of non-living systems can be predicted using Newton's laws, living organisms exhibit complex, adaptable, and largely unpredictable behavior. This sense of agency is most pronounced in humans due to our self-awareness. Such awareness of self provides a greater level of freedom in our decisions, not entirely driven by our instincts and emotions. However, to fully grasp Descartes' view without considering the religious and cultural context of his time would be to miss an essential aspect of the issue. Descartes' philosophy was in harmony with Christian theology, equating the conscious mind with the soul or spirit. The soul, as the center of consciousness and moral reasoning, was also seen as surviving beyond physical death. By separating the mind from the physical body and its brain mechanisms, Descartes' dualism was perceived by many as philosophically supporting Christian views on the soul. As scientific understanding evolved, Cartesian dualism encountered growing skepticism. The Enlightenment, with its focus on reason, empirical evidence, and skepticism of established authority, challenged not just specific doctrines, but also the intertwining of science and religion. To many thinkers of that period, dualistic ideas of an immaterial mind or soul seemed like remnants of religious doctrine, inappropriate for a rational, scientific view. Skepticism of substance dualism began even before neuroscience and psychology became formal disciplines, as the notion of an immaterial mind distinct from the body clashed with the then prevailing mechanistic concept of causality since Newton. The idea of the universe's causal closure asserts that every physical event is the result of previous physical events. This deterministic outlook raises the issue: if all our actions, emotions, or thoughts are preordained by a fixed sequence of causes and effects, then where does an independent entity known as the self fit in? From such reasoning, philosophies that deny the existence of minds, like reductionism, eliminative materialism, and illusionism, have emerged. These viewpoints argue that the activities we attribute to a conscious self are entirely explainable by material processes in the brain. This approach, initially proposed by philosopher David Hume and now updated empirically by neurophilosophers like Patricia Churchland, Daniel Dennett, and Keith Frankish, posits that what exists is merely a collection of transient experiences, without a central self to unite them. However, this scientific skepticism also stemmed from an ideological shift. Reductionism can be viewed as a direct response or critique of pre-modern ideas, driven partly by an aim to cleanse science of any supernatural or religious elements. Since the self was intertwined with the notion of a soul, its scientific rejection on ideological grounds was foreseeable. Consequently, neuroscience and psychology's discoveries were interpreted through a reductionist lens. The failure to locate a specific brain area corresponding precisely to the self seemed to support the view that it is an illusion, a concept that for many remains elusive. Reductionism has recently found support in non-dual Eastern philosophy. This quasi-mystical philosophy posits that by not identifying with our thoughts or ego, we can cultivate a more compassionate world, devoid of self-judgment and judgment of others. If we are not in control of our actions or thoughts, then the idea of punishment becomes irrelevant and unethical. By not overemphasizing the self, individuals might become more aware of the interconnectivity of existence, moving towards a holistic perspective of collective responsibility. Nonetheless, the rejection of the self carries its own troubling implications, particularly for those deeply contemplating these issues. If we have no self and no control over our thoughts and actions, we are essentially bound to a deterministic universe, caught in a nihilistic trap, with no power to change our fate or that of humanity. For those who take the extreme reductionist view seriously, this can lead to cognitive dissonance and, in more severe cases, profound depression or psychosis. Thankfully, as is common with intricate philosophical conundrums, a synthesis is often reached, integrating various viewpoints into a more coherent and rational understanding. While the self may not be a physical object that can be held, there is a growing wealth of empirical data indicating it's a real phenomenon with detectable physical counterparts, arising from the sophisticated interactions of cognitive processes within the brain. New, innovative theories of consciousness like global workspace theory, integrated world modeling theory, and the inner screen hypothesis are reviving the idea of a Cartesian theater where experiences are observed by a subject with agency and causal impact. Douglas Hofstadter, A prominent cognitive scientist and Pulitzer Prize-winning author of Gödel, Escher argues that the self is born in systems capable of modeling the world and themselves. This results in a self-referential cycle where cognition examines itself, creating a focal point of experience and control. Mechanisms like recurrent feedback loops form the basis for the emergence of consciousness and, subsequently, the feeling of a personal self. In the years following this proposal, modern neuroscience and psychology have lent neuroanatomical and behavioral support to this loop theory. Investigations into brain networks like the cortical midline structures, CMS, and the default mode network, DMN, are shedding light on how self-awareness might stem from the brain's self-modeling capabilities. Self-modeling is the process by which the brain, naturally forming a mental representation of the world, models itself as an agent possessing a mind. The DMN, which includes the CMS, can be thought of as part of the same essential computational system, though each network is associated with slightly different roles. These networks comprise well-researched brain regions like the medial prefrontal cortex and the posterior and anterior cingulate cortex. The cortical midline structures consistently exhibit activity in tasks involving self-awareness and introspection. The DMN is a network of brain regions that show heightened activity when the mind is focused inward, engaging in activities like daydreaming, self-contemplation, and envisioning the future. These processes involve the ongoing amalgamation and revision of information about one's physical existence, personal narrative, and emotional states, contributing to the formation of a dynamic, subjective self-image. A vast array of peer-reviewed research has linked this network with self-awareness and thoughts centered on the self. We are now able to observe the neural patterns of electrical activity that correspond to these conscious and introspective states, revealing in detail the physical structure of the informational entity we call the self. By integrating these various threads, a novel comprehension of the mind's nature is emerging. The self, although not a physical entity in the traditional sense, is both real and identifiable. The experience of taking psychedelics, which can temporarily dissolve this structure, resulting in an overwhelming sense of unity with the external world, also corroborates its existence. The fact that the sense of self can vanish and then reappear underlines its reality. The very ability to fade and re-emerge implies a certain physicality. The argument for the self's reality is not only rooted in intuitive belief and daily experience, but is also reinforced by the latest developments and theories in cognitive neuroscience. Whether through the introspective practices of meditation and creative imagination, or the charting of neural correlates of consciousness and cognitive control, the self's existence finds confirmation at every step. A solid sense of self is essential for an ideal human experience, as it significantly impacts mental health and moral decision-making. It enables individuals to interpret the world, assume responsibility, make choices based on values, and form deep connections with others. From this newly formed synthesis, it's evident that the debate over the self's existence is not merely an intellectual exercise in philosophical argumentation. It holds substantial implications for our understanding of self-identity, morality, and the essence of reality itself. In the observable universe, it's estimated there are 10 billion trillion planets where life may potentially arise. Given this incredibly large figure, the prevailing view is that it's improbable for us to be the only intelligent, self-aware entities in the cosmos. Such a perspective often leads to a profound realization of our seeming insignificance. In the grand scheme of a universe filled with a myriad of planets, possibly teeming with life, what significance do we humans hold? Yet this assumption is equally flawed. This forms the core argument of Marcelo Gleiser in his latest book, The Dawn of a Mindful Universe, a manifesto for humanity's future. Gleiser articulates a comprehensive case for a significant paradigm shift in our understanding of our place in the cosmos and its critical implications for our future, should we have one. Blending his poetic sensibility with scientific expertise, Gleiser takes us on an extensive journey through astronomy, physics, and astrobiology to pose a critical inquiry. In such an immense universe, what is the significance of our existence? His thorough explorations into the development of planets and life culminate in a surprising revelation. Earth is unique. It's from this standpoint that he unveils a fresh viewpoint on our identity and what lies ahead for us. The figure of 10 billion trillion certainly indicates that the universe has had an abundance of planets to conduct experiments in life and civilization. However, what remains unclear is the distinctiveness of each experiment's results. The evolutionary path on each planet will be highly dependent on a variety of chance events, ensuring no two planets share identical histories. This might seem trivial, but it becomes significant when considering the evolution of life. Consider the proportion of land to water. About 2/3 of Earth's surface is ocean-covered. Why this specific ratio and not something different? The answer lies in Earth's early history, marked by bombardments from comets and asteroids, which dictated water delivery to the planet. This process was entirely random. In fact, it's likely that most planets experience extreme outcomes in terms of water. Either overwhelming water coverage due to excessive comet impacts, resulting in a world dominated by oceans, or minimal water, leading to predominantly desert planets. Therefore, the relatively even distribution of land and water on Earth could be exceptionally rare. This rarity has profound implications for how life evolves on each planet. For instance, on Earth, the tidal areas where land meets sea have played a crucial role in the development of our planet's biological lineage. This implies that we are unlikely to discover another planet like Earth. The distinct history of our planet has shaped its life forms uniquely. While there might be other life-bearing planets, each will follow its own evolutionary path, which may include the emergence of consciousness. The development of self-awareness on Earth probably possesses characteristics unique to our planet's particular past. This suggests that in the vast expanse of the universe, our existence is likely to be singularly and remarkably unique. From this perspective, Gleiser presents his groundbreaking suggestion. He proposes moving beyond the Copernican principle, also known as the principle of cosmic mediocrity, in relation to humanity. He believes it's necessary to create a new narrative about our existence that recognizes our distinctiveness, even amidst other planets with life. The type of biocentrism he advocates repositions humanity at the forefront of a story about a unique planet with a unique history. According to him, only then can we truly appreciate how invaluable and perhaps even sacred our world is. Humanity is confronted with significant challenges, including the threat of nuclear warfare, environmental crises, and unregulated artificial intelligence. Our current global perspective is inadequate for addressing these issues. A different narrative is needed, one that is both scientifically sound and deeply insightful, which is what he proposes.